Lesson 9 deals with CSS3, and there are always new CSS properties being created. So CSS3 kind of never ends. There are continually new properties that I'm discovering that did not exist a year ago. Okay, so kind of be aware that I'm going to kind of show you ones that have been around for a while, and some of the newer properties that some of you have already discovered, like the clipping mask. I have included them down here in the course resources so you can kind of take a look at them. So we'll start off with our web-based readings. And so some of these will be a little review because I've kind of worked some of the CSS3 commands into the class already, just because they are incredibly cool. So these are all links to articles that deal with what we are going to be discussing this week. And then once you're done reading through those, we have the lecture demo. Okay, and so we kind of start with a little overview of CSS3. And I do discuss these prefixes only because when they come out with brand new CSS, sometimes the web browsers haven't incorporated it yet. And then you do need to, I mean, you can still use the commands, but you have to prefix them with this list of prefixes. Okay, and WebKit is probably what you're going to see the most often as far as a prefix. So you are going to probably encounter code out there. And if you use a prefix, uh, basically what you have to do, see, I've got a lot of stuff open here. Stuff that you guys are probably not at all interested in. All right. So if I did a command, let's say it's one of the newer commands, and let's see. I'm going to use border radius, but you don't need to. You certainly do not need a prefix with this one. Okay. So if this was a brand new command, I would put the command in without the prefix, but I would also add the prefix because if it needs the prefix, then the command will work. And once it doesn't need the prefix, the command will still work because I have it without the prefix and I have it with the prefix. Okay. And if it's really, really new, you may want to include it with all of the prefixes, which does make your CSS rather lengthy, but it also ensures that it will run on all of the web browsers. Okay, so that is why we have prefixes. I also linked out to a site where you can check to see which browsers, if any, recognize the CSS property that you are trying to use. Okay, and then after we have that little discussion, then we just go through these different categories of CSS3. Okay. And so just different ways that it is being used. So we get into text and object formatting, and some of these commands we already know about, but I've included some variations to border radius, like just using it as an outline rather than, having everything filled in. And how do you round only certain corners? Okay. And then there's a link out so you can practice using these commands. Okay. And then we get into backgrounds. Okay. And this is a newer feature, being able to specify the size without actually editing the images. And the two responsive commands are contain and cover. Those are part of CSS3. Okay, so as you go through here, it kind of describes what it is. There'll be a link out, and quite often I'll also give you an example in the page, a couple different ways or additional ways to specify color, how to create gradients. So there is a lot here, a lot to unpack. And you'll notice that when we get down into some of the animation, okay, and the filters, I do have some interactive things for you to kind of play with. So here's the image as is. You know, how does it look with a little drop shadow? Okay, and this is the code. So if you're wondering, what an X at 6X or 6 pixels and a Y at 7 looks like, this is showing you. And these are not really cumulative. So, I mean, what does it look like if I change the opacity? Okay, so you can kind of play around with those settings. Saturate, unsaturated is black and white. Fully saturated almost looks cartoonish. So I will let you play with these, but at the bottom, it does tell you what the different settings are. We get into 2D transformations, and this is also interactive. Okay, so you can kind of play with this and it'll show you, what the settings are. If it gets super, super messed up, like, oh no, my box has disappeared, just reload the page. And then everything will come kind of back the way it was. And so as you go through here, I really encourage you to interact with the examples and do the practice code because you will learn it better. Okay. And then we get into the assignments, and we have a textbook assignment that is more directive. And then, of course, the lab assignment where you get to kind of do your own thing on some of the exercises. And let's see. So this is the textbook assignment, and I do have some files for you to download. And then you will be making modifications to the exercises. So the first one is this one. And you'll be styling these boxes. And then you're going to create an effect where a tip is going to display when you hover that shows you the person who made the quote. And you're also going to put a little fishy in here. And then eventually you will animate these boxes so they kind of jiggle and bounce when the page loads. And so you'll just have to kind of work through the different tasks, and eventually you will have the completed page. And you can see here's where we're adding animation. You're also going to create a 3D cube. This is the code that you need to create the cube. And this is what the cube should look like. Okay, so you'll be creating that. You will be animating a ball. So this is going to literally bounce up and down. The code for that is here. That is all the code you need to make this ball bounce. Okay, and then you're going to actually animate your song snippet file. So you're going to do a couple different things. You're going to animate the title. You are going to animate those boxes with the songs in them. Okay, so this walks you through applying all of that animation. And then once you're done, you will transfer everything. Let's see, the lab assignment. So for the lab assignment, you are going to add animation to 2 of your existing pages. One of them is going to be the Flexbox model page, and then the other one is going to be your form. Okay, and so I don't really care, how you animate them. If you want to do the animation like my examples, I have videos and directions. But if you want to do something more, by all means, you guys have fun with this. So if we take a look here, here's the flex box. Okay, and here's the animation. So the instructions show you how to do that animation. But if you guys want to do something more, awesome. Okay. If you want to do just the minimum, then you can kind of follow the directions. Um, for the form, let's see. We are doing the sliding on the form itself. So this is form animation. And let me show you what that looks like. I may have to reload this so you can see, but basically everything kind of slides on from different directions. Okay, and I did not put the rotate on the submit, at least on this one. Let me look at this guy. So you can see how everything kind of slides into place. And I did put the rotate on this one. Okay, so if you want to do that same animation, great. If you want to do something a little different, that's okay too. But you do need to animate those 2 pages. Um, with part 2, you are going to download this. And you should already have this background graphic because you downloaded it before. And you're going to make every box resizable. So this little box with the paragraph text, that needs to be resizable. And the bigger box with the graphic needs to be resizable. Okay, and then you are going to make those graphics, those pictures, responsive. So in one of them, you are going to change the size to contain, and the other one, the background size should be cover. And then when you resize those boxes, you will see the difference between contain and cover. Okay, and this is kind of just showing you how the completed code should look. And then the final part of this is adding animation of your choice to your assignment page. Okay, and so you can animate literally whatever you want. Okay, so that is the lab assignment. Don't forget to update all of your links and get everything transferred to the web. Let's see. As far as additional resources, I did link out to a couple of those kind of neat new CSS3 commands. I also linked out to this HSL color picker because this is another way that you can pick color. And it actually includes HSLA. It does include the alpha here for transparency. Okay, and it's got the hex number. You can switch it over to RGB if you prefer. It's got RGBA, HSLA. So you could actually copy and paste this and use this in your HTML. Okay, so I thought this was a pretty cool site and it's fairly easy to use. So that's why I included it. So that's what you guys are going to be working on. And I hope you really enjoy CSS3. It is a ton of fun to work with and have fun. All of the requirements in the lab assignment are minimal requirements. So if you guys want to do more, have at it. Okay. If you do run into problems or have questions, let me know.